need to quote a few African Americans, but the one I start quoting now is Alex Hill, all the roots. Alex and I were on a program in my hometown of Cluster, Virginia together. And Alex said his father told him, if you see a turtle sitting atop a fence post, you know it has some help. So I want to tell you about this fence post which I studied. My bride of 62 years now, Zenobia, and I got married in our sophomore year, end of our sophomore year at Norfolk State. I had no degree. I had no permanent job. My brothers told me I had no nothing, as a matter of fact. But 2 years later, by the time I finished Norfolk State and headed off to the University of Rochester School of Medicine and Dentistry for my first master's degree, we had our firstborn son. We decided that she would stay at Norfolk State, complete undergraduate, before joining me in Rochester, New York. So she stayed there taking care of our firstborn son. Years later, when we were in Cleveland, we decided to go to the University of Michigan for the Dark Story study. A few years after that, when we decided I would go to the Harvard Business School. By that time, we had 2 sons. And we decided that she would not interrupt her career as a teacher in Cleveland. So she stayed in Cleveland, taking care of 2 sons, while I came home as many weekends as possible. But you know the routine. She would get up in the morning, make sure that they got dressed, fix breakfast for them, take one off to daycare, another off to school, go teach a full day of school herself, reverse that process in the afternoon, come home, pull off her coat, kick off her shoes, fix dinner for them. After dinner, see to it that they did their homework. And when they were in bed, take care of the other 36 students by correcting papers and calling home. And she did that so that I could achieve. So everywhere I go, I borrow from Gladys Knight, there used to be Pips, if you will, because I say that anyone should ever write my life story, for whatever reason there might be. Zenobia will be between each line of pain and
You better tell it.
I didn't realize how much she had done for me until she went to graduate school and I was stuck with those 2 years. The ladies should be canonized for dealing with those 2 characters. What's the message? The message is not only for Black History Month, but for everyone. We must always acknowledge those who know. Yeah. Don't take it for granted that they know. I know men who say, I'll have to tell my wife I love her. I told her the day we got married, if I ever change my mind, I'll let her know. What you have to do is tell people how much you appreciate them. And that has been the characteristic of us throughout Black history. I was humbled when Deacon Carl Batts called me and invited, I can't mislead you, Pastor. Mother Renee Batts was on the phone. She told me I was going to be here. I didn't get an invitation. I went to the Harvard Business School, and I think she went to the Harriet Tubman College of Business Administration. So I'm here because I was in fact told to be here. And I'm aware of the time. I'm going to respect the time. I gave a talk once, and a man walked out in the middle of my talk. I saw him the next day, and I said, you walked out in the middle of my talk. Why? He said, I went to get a haircut. I said, why did you get a haircut before I started teaching? He said, I didn't need a haircut before we started. So I'm not a slow learner. I will be respectful of your time. I tell you, you see me in my glory, but you don't know my story. I grew up in a family where there were 11 children. My mother only went through 8th grade, my father through 4th. But make no mistake about it, they grew up in North Carolina before moving to Virginia. They were not uneducated, they were self-educated. Well, they were the smartest people that I have ever met. Well, they had some degrees though. They had the BA, born again. Yeah. MS, Master Savior. PhD, PhD, pure government divine. Yes. I stand here to tell you that I am honored to be in this place this day, but it's only because of them. When I talk to you about what my parents said, they used to say, boy, you should get enough education so you never have to look up to anybody. And then get a little bit more so you'll be wise enough not to look down on anybody. Yes, they've given me the lessons that have seen me through. And as Black people, We've got lessons from our ancestors
Yes, sir.
that have brought us to where we are today. And we must always pay it on. I will tell you this. You're not going to get a sermon from me today. Pastors and I have an agreement. I don't do sermons and they don't do radiation physics. But understand, there's really no conflict between religion and science.
Yes, sir.
There's no conflict between technology and theology. There's no conflict between mentality and morality. And we must always understand that science has a role to play in our lives.
Yes, sir.
And scientists have a way to go. You see, what I remember when our little son was in high school, he asked me for the definition of a human being. And the definition I gave him, because he and his buddies wanted an engineering term, I told them that the human being is a complete, self-contained, totally enclosed power plant, available in a variety of sizes and colors, and reproducible in quantity. Human beings are relatively long-lived. They have major components and duplicates, and science has rapidly making strides to solve the spare parts problem. Humans are waterproof, amphibious, operate on a wide variety of fuels, enjoy thermostatically controlled temperatures, circulating fluid heat, evaporative cooling, have sealed and lubricated areas, audio and optional direction, frame time, sound and sight control, and are equipped with a sophisticated control system called the brain. Now, when I was through with that description, it became significant to me for what has been mentioned. What goes beyond the mere fact of this so-called robot's existence and turns it into a human being? What makes it human is the belief in a living God. Christianity, believing in support, help, looking out for one another. I have a sign that I used to carry around with me at NASA that says you can have all the technical knowledge in the world at your fingertips, but if you are a caring human being, you're the most dangerous creature on earth.
Well,
And the most unfulfilled. So, I stand here thinking about where we are this day, thinking about Black History Month, what it means, thinking about what we have done to ourselves and the people in this last election. I'm standing here as I used to go on the NASA website and be able to read about NASA's tribute to Black astronauts. That's not there. That's been taken down. So I decided that I would go back and look in my Bible for some guidance.
well,
I found Proverbs 6:16 that
well.
says, there are 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are detestable to him. Haughty eyes,
Yes, sir.
lying tongue,
Yes, sir.
hands that shed innocent
Innocent
blood,
blood.
a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil,
Yeah.
a false witness
Yeah.
who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers. All right, can you think of anybody?
Well,
But what has happened in Black history is, in spite of those things that happened to us, we have been the most forgiving people in history. You know, Black people have never let anger and hatred get in our way. And I would submit that anger and hatred are acids that can do more harm in the vessels in which they are stored than anything upon which they are poured. We cannot forget our Christianity and our humanity. We talk about diversity. Mother Renee Bass was chief of our diversity office at NASA, Grand Research Center in Cleveland. She recognized the value of observance this month. Being the typical graduate of the Harriet Tubman School of Management, she made it mandatory that every single supervisor, manager, executive had to have their behinds in the seats in the auditorium for Black History Month observance. And for all those observance months. They had no choice. And the center director, I just did what she told me. Enforcing that guideline in terms of their performance evaluations, including whether or not they observe Black History Month and the public. We have to recognize, as she did, that that was part of our executive management training. If you're going to lead people, you have to understand people. Black History Month gives us a chance to learn more about our history and gain greater respect for ourselves. And others who observe Black History Month and see what happens, they gain better respect for us as well. I learned from Black History Month the value of humility. I learned from my parents the value of humility. You notice Dr. Martin Luther King and those who led Black history, they didn't lead with their ego. So often, people get carried away and get their little degrees and act seditious.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't let people get in my way. I grew up in a family of preachers. Listen to this. My daddy, James Earls, was an itinerant preacher. My older sister, Ellen H. Earls, died last November, November 24th. She was 104 years old and has served for 61 years. In 1963, she was appointed the assistant pastor at her church in Black Creek, North Carolina, and served in that role until she passed.
Amen.
This was Friday, Valentine's Day. My oldest brother, a retired pastor, celebrated his 93rd birthday in Portsmouth, Virginia. I have I'm brother number 8. Brother number 9, Hayward, was a pastor in San Antonio, Texas. He died in 1988. Was a tremendous brother and tremendous pastor. And now my baby brother, listen to me calling somebody 68 years old, my baby brother, Robert Earls, is the pastor of St. John Baptist Church in Portsmouth, Virginia. They all care. They all create. But what they used to tell me is you have to be careful. Because some people want to be pastors because they want to serve. Then when they get to be pastors, they want to be served.
Yeah.
And what we have to do is understand and value and appreciate pastors like yours, like my pastor, who are in that role to provide assistance, to provide help, to provide consolation to those who need it. You know, since many scientists get that way, you know, to get those degrees and then they get so impressed. And I don't let them come around me acting sedate.
Yes, sir.
I say a college degree might make you special, but it doesn't make you better.
Oh,
man.
No one better
Yes, sir.
get that degree. And they get these degrees and get egos and humility. Let me tell you about a lesson in humility. I was hired to be a consultant for a nuclear power plant company in South Carolina. They hired me to go around the state and give lectures on the biological effects and the environmental effects of ionizing radiation. They also provided a chauffeur-driven limousine. Every time I would go into the airport and get ready to go one of these cities, the chauffeur would pull up in that stretch limousine and drive me to these locations. One night he looked at me and said, you know, Dr. Earls, I heard you give that lecture so often, I could give it myself. I said, surely you jest. He said, oh no, I'm serious. I said, well, I'll tell you what, they don't know me in this little time. I'll sit in the back as the chauffeur, you go up front and deliver lecture. I'm black, you're white, they're going to think I'm the chauffeur anyway. So he went up front, he delivered the lecture, verbatim, punctuated. As a matter of fact, he did it so well, he finished a few minutes earlier than I finished. At this occasion, the MC stepped forward and said, well, you know, Dr. Earls finished a little earlier than we thought. So we have time for a few questions.
Oh, my word.
Boy, I smile. The lady stood up and said, well, you know, Dr. Earls, I think we defined the wrinkle as that amount of exogamma radiation such that the associated combustion emission of brain. There's one electrostatic unit of charge of either sign, but you didn't say the difference between that and the rim Durand nerve. What's the difference? Chauffeur dropped his head, looked up and said, in my entire career, that's probably the easiest question I've ever had. As a matter of fact, it's so simple, I'm going to let my chauffeur stand up and answer the question. You see, education is more than classroom. what we learned from Black history, watching those who achieve, and not the big name people, but the people that have impacted our lives. Those
Yes,
people,
sir.
mothers and fathers and cousins and deacons and the Black church members and so forth. What we learned from them is that we can be what the Lord wants us to be. And keep our hands in the hands of Christ.
Yes, we do.
And I've learned that God did not give anybody everything, but He gave everybody something.
Amen.
What we have to do to write the Black history future, we have to make sure that we help people develop that something. Back to this election again. We had an opportunity to elect a Black woman as the first Black and the first woman president of the United States of America. What happened? There's a Turkish proverb that says the forest was short, but the trees kept voting for the axe. But the axe was clever. It convinced the trees, because its handle was made of wood, that it was one of them. And that's what convinced so many Black people, how Black people You know, someone once said, all white folks are not your enemies, and all Black folks are not your friends.
Amen.
We had a chance to impact Black history, and we failed. But one of the reasons we did is because of education. You notice Trump once said that he loved poorly educated people. You look at the data about who voted for him. People, college degrees, people with more education voted for Kamala Harris. So I maintain that what we have to do as a people, if we want to change things for the future, if we want Black history to be the way it ought to be for us, we have to marshal our forces with our Black people, with our Black children. Amen. We have to do more in terms of education, because we have to get our students, our children, educated enough to know whether the handle being out of wood is enough for them to vote for an axe. And we can do that. Don't think you can't. Everyone in here can make a determination to do something different. When I was at NASA, it wasn't enough for me to be a scientist at NASA. I decided that I wanted to reach out and help our people, our children, our students. So I went down and teach physics and math at Tri-City. I taught for 27 years at Tri-City. What I wanted to do, though, was make physics learnable and relevant. I decided that if they learned the history of physics, that they would better appreciate the subject. So on one test, after 10 problems, I gave a bonus question. I wrote, what can you tell me about the great physicists of the 18th century? One student wrote, they're all dead.
Well, they told it.
The answer was absolutely correct. I learned that in life, people, often it's more important for you to know the right questions to ask than for you to know the right answers. And that's a characteristic that got us so far in Black history. Our leaders, people, knowing the right questions to ask and taking the right action. When I told this young lady, I said, look, you've done extremely well in this course, and you should go on and get a degree. She said, well, I'm not married. I have 2 children. I can only come down here to Tri-City when my mother gets home to take care of her. I'm from a broken home. And I said, look, let me destroy a lie that permeates this nation. A broken home is not a home with a single parent. A broken home is a home without love.
Oh,
Two very successful people. Two people have been raised in this nation by single parents, for us to start calling them throwaway children and at risk as a result of that. I said, young lady, if you want to do it, if you work to do it, will to do it, you can do that. She said, well, okay, but how long would it take me to get a degree going to school part-time? I said, well, it may take 8 or 9 years. She said, 9 years? Do you know how old I will be in 9 years? My response was, young lady, you will be the same age in 9 years, whether or not you go to college. But you look back 9 years later and say, if I had started then, I would be through by now. And my son said, if your aunt were a man, she would be your uncle. You can give your life away. The world is full of couldas and wouldas and shouldas, if only. You must never let yourself be caught at any point in your life saying how much better off you would be if you've done something that was completely under your control in the first place. Like, finally she said, I'm too old to be working on a degree. I reminded her that the Roman scholar Cato started to study Greek when he was 80 years old. And someone said, why would you start to study a different language at the advanced age of 80? Cato responded, 80 is the earliest age I have left to start. And your age, as you sit where you are now, is the earliest age you have to start to do some of the things that you know you want to do. It may be playing a music instrument, a different language, an exercise program. You don't have to run marathons, but walk 20 minutes 3 or 4 times. Now is the earliest time you have left to do it, and you can do it. Don't fail to make a difference. And don't think that one person can make a difference. Every one of us in here can impact the Black history future. It was Socrates who said idealism. Whether a city of God does exist or ever will exist on earth, the wise man will pattern himself after the manner of that city, and in so doing will set his own house in order. People, we have to be about the business of setting our own house in order. So let's reach out for Black history future. Let's reach out to students. Everyone, make a decision. My church has adopted Wayne Park Elementary School and provides support to those students and make a financial contribution to help them. You can teach. You can tune. You can make your presence felt with our Black students. It's not going to be easy. My folks used to say, nothing worth having comes easy. So I encourage you to take the advice the judge gave the 80-year-old man that she sentenced to 30 years in prison. The old man cried, Your Honor, I won't live long enough to serve such a sentence. She said, that's all right. Just do what you can. Just do what you can.